Hello, Stephen Long here, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Gaston's Grade podcast. This week's episode is part 2 of a 2-part recording in an effort to keep each episode a little shorter. If you've not heard part 1 from last week, I would encourage you to go back and listen to that part first. Thanks again, and we hope you enjoy it. All right, that was a perfect segue to the next question. You always get that. One question you get these questions about what's the future look like. We have this classic 5 to 10 years, but the world seems like the world we live in, especially in the business world, we don't look that far ahead anymore. Things change too quickly. We might look 3 years ahead.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you guys envision? For the organization looking ahead? I mean, you just shared a little bit on a broader sense, but anything specific or what's happening or how would you say the future looks or any plans or anything specific you guys can share?
Well, I'll start and then let Leslie finish up. So we're right now working on our strategic plan, and you're right. We backed up from the 5-year plan to this year. What are some things that we want to accomplish? And we're focusing a lot on board development, ensuring that we have board members, representing various industries, having board members with different skill sets, and, able to bring something to the organization.
Getting rid of these guys that have been around too long.
No, we need you. That's wisdom. But, just looking.
Kind way to put it. Thank you, Amia.
But looking how to expand the board and our network, our reach, and also helping to get, people to know more about what Gaston Together does. The other piece of it is looking at our program development, which Leslie will be able to speak to. And then the other focus area is the fund, the development part as far as fundraising and, looking at ways and exploring opportunities to bring in revenue for the different initiatives, looking at grants and, how we can raise that level so that we can provide more services.
Okay. What would you add to that, Leslie?
It's really about teaching our community that you need to fund the idea along with the program.
Okay.
People want to fund programs, and I understand that because you have something tangible that you can see, but the programs don't happen without the idea being discovered first, and that's really where our role comes in. Our role is to take the idea, have the people have the conversation, move it forward into a program, get it started, and then send it on its way. So really getting people to understand how we function in our community and what our role is and the good behind how we approach that. If I had my choice for anything that was going to happen in 5 to 10 years from now, Gaston Together would be an organization that is in its own location, that is designed to be the facilitators, the connectors for all the conversations that happen here in the county, so that we could have our programs like our civic engagement leadership in a building that is there, but also invite the community in and be the facilitators for those conversations to really have people learn how to talk to each other in a way that's productive.
All right, very good. Yeah, so, and that, boy, there's so many directions that could go, so I appreciate you sharing that. Before we shift gears here, is there anything I haven't asked that I should have asked, anything you'd like to share? I mean, trust me, before we finish, we'll make sure our listeners know how to find more information about the organization or what the current needs are, that kind of thing. We'll finish up with that. But anything I haven't asked that I should have asked?
I don't think so.
All right. So since you have any delay there, we have these questions that we make our guests endure, and we're going to call this the connector speed round of questions, since that's the word Amia used. That I come up with a different name every episode, and Naomi just rolls her eyes typically incorrectly. So, Amia, this is what your family, this is all your friends and families, the board at Gaston. This is what everybody really wants to know. Okay, are you prepped?
I'm ready.
All right, and I'm assuming that we want to send this link to Cameron down in Auburn, right?
Yes,
so she can
I
hear
will.
this. All right. All right. So what is your favorite Tony's ice cream flavor?
If I don't like ice cream, can I say something else that I like from
Oh,
Tony's?
gosh. We have like a 3-hour limit on this.
So,
yes, you can.
Okay. So
You're in charge of HR for Gaston County. You can go any direction you would like.
Thank you. So I'm not a big ice cream fan. However, I love Tony's sweet tea, and I love my burnt bologna around the edges, bread smashed with mustard.
That is very specific.
Yes. Yes.
You know what, though? I have to admit, a little burnt bologna, hot dog, those kind of things, burned a little bit, are peak.
Yes.
That is peak. Can you follow that?
I can. I happen to really like orange sherbet, but I wouldn't say no to a grilled cheese sandwich from Tony's either.
Okay. So, in essence, neither one of you are going to answer that question. So, Leslie, Sundrop or Cheerwine?
I don't really drink soda, but it would be Diet Sundrop.
This episode is really going well. Amia?
Sheer wine.
All right, Amia, favorite local restaurant?
EJ Soul Food.
Oh, yeah, that place is good.
Wandering Cup Coffee Shop.
Okay. We're improving. It's going back up.
getting there.
Leslie, have favorite outdoor activity in Gaston County or favorite park?
It's walking and hiking, and I love Kings Mountain State Park. I know that the entrance is technically in South
that's
Carolina,
that's
but
close
you cross
enough.
over
Yeah,
into North
yeah.
Carolina as you're hiking. So.
Yes. Remember, this is about Gaston and surrounding
areas.
Yeah.
So.
Amia?
So my family would say she's lying if I say walking because I don't do outside. However, I do like Martha's Rivers Park.
Yeah, Martha Rivers is great. Yeah. Okay, then. So this is a super important question. And ultimately, there's only one correct answer, and I'll start with you, Amia. And you can modify as needed. I'll grant that, especially with your recent change in how many people you have around the house. UNC Duke or NC State?
UNC.
We just did a disapproval sound effect for that.
I knew I was gonna
Because Leslie
get
doesn't
that.
have headphones on.
So you're going to have to amplify the disapproval with my answer because University of Connecticut, or they'll take away my diploma.
UConn. Okay. We can. Next question. Leslie, what is something very few people know about you?
I have a Master Gardener certificate, and I use gardening as my way to relax and
good for you.
work everything out.
You know
Pulling
what,
those
it's-
weeds can really make a difference.
I have learned. Yeah, I've learned this. I do think it's important that everybody has something. You know, something like that. I mean, I'm involved with a group called F3. That's kind of my thing, is exercising and leadership study, and is what we do there. And so, yeah, that's kind of my thing. So, Amia, how would you answer that?
I love to dance. Yes, it's a song come on, I'm dancing, but people don't, because I'm serious a lot of times, and so they're like, "Oh, do you have fun?" Oh, yes, I do. Turn on the music.
So that just triggered something else. Have you ever participated in the Boys and Girls Club?
I
dancing-
have not.
dancing
No,
for
and
Future
with
Stars?
no. That's private dance. No, I'm not dancing.
Well, it's out now.
That's right.
I mean, this is all about it. Gee whiz. So, yeah, I've got connections over there at the Boys and Girls Club. They might be hearing. I might send them this clip of this episode. Do you remember that?
Oh.
All right, Mia. How about a book or blog article, another podcast? Is anything that you might recommend to our listeners?
So right now I'm reading The 4 Stages of Psychological Safety, and it's really good. Not just, I was reading it professionally, but personally, looking at, when Leslie talked about the Togetherness Project and, people feeling lonely, what's that sense of belonging? And are people really safe in their environments? We focus a lot of times on physical safety, but we don't think about psychological safety and whether people feel included, whether they feel like they contribute, they matter. And so that's been a good read for me.
Very good. Leslie, do you have anything to share there?
I have two. The first is The Beekeeper of Aleppo, which I just finished.
Okay.
And that book was a hard read, but it was worth it. It's a story of a refugee family in Europe from the Syrian war, and after many, many generations of being beekeepers, how their lives changed. Really, one you have to kind of put down and pick back up again.
All right.
But my go-to book is a book called Making the Impossible Possible. That's my why. It is a book about a gentleman who created a community nonprofit center in Pittsburgh. No matter what people told him, they kept telling him, "You can't," and he was like, "Watch me." So I go back to that when I need it.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm always reading something professional, spiritual, occasionally, I mean, every fourth or fifth book might be just something for pleasure, but most of the time I'm reading on something leadership or so those titles are intriguing. And I know people around here at GSM get tired of me talking about the books and stuff and podcasts. I'm sharing podcast episodes all the time here too. I'm sure everybody listens to all of them, right? So listen, I appreciate you guys indulging us on those Gaston County questions. So we've got a couple more questions, and we'll finish up this episode. So remember that this is a podcast about Gaston County and why Gaston County is such a great place. So, and start with you, Amia. Besides Gaston Together, why would you say Gaston is such a great place?
So I'm gonna steal this. Leslie and I talked yesterday. She said people, and I would say the heart of the people. Okay. That's what makes it great for me. People here truly do care. I see what goes on in other places, and I'm like, wow, I'm grateful where I live. It's a family type of environment. It doesn't matter, where you're from or we have the schools you go to and the competitiveness, but when it really comes down to it, and we need to make something happen, we come together to do that. And I know that's not always the case in certain communities and areas. And so I say that's the heart, okay. The heart of the people and the good that we want to do.
Very good. Sorry, I asked her first.
She stole my answer because my answer was the people, but I can say I saw that firsthand. Last year I had a very serious family issue, and I had a family member who was very sick. And the way the community rallied around me and supported me and lifted me up during that meant the world to me. And you're absolutely right. The people here are different. They care, and they want to make sure that you know that they're there for you.
Yeah, I've been so fortunate. Gosh, I'm 54 now. So I've been involved in the community, almost a quarter century doing things. Wow, that just made my head spin there a second. Wow. But I have seen that firsthand, and then unfortunately, 3.5 years ago, we had an event here with two of our coworkers, and we really saw it firsthand, how the community rallied around our company and our coworkers. And so I hope you don't ever have to deal with, but man, it was so, frankly, it was uplifting, in a time that was just crazy, just absolutely, crazy. So I appreciate that, and I do agree. Of course, I have to be careful. I'm such a homer for Gaston County, Of course, it's the greatest place ever. What do you mean? But I've traveled enough too, and spent time away that it's not the way. That's not that way everywhere.
That's right.
It's very interesting. So I appreciate that. So I say this every episode. This is my favorite question. So I'll give you the first shot at this one, Leslie, since Amelia's getting all the easy softball first questions. What advice, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
Stop hesitating. Just do it.
So you're going all Nike on us.
Yeah, just do it.
Why do we hesitate, especially when we're younger? It's just, I don't know. I did.
Yeah.
That's great. That's a great one. Mia, how would you answer that?
Love all of who you are, know your worth, and know you're valued. And don't let your mistakes define who you are. Don't get stuck. Don't stop. Keep moving.
That's like a couple of mic drops there. Should I even say anything else? Jeez, anything else I'm just going to screw it up from here on. That was really good. I appreciate that. So, again, the main point is to bring awareness to the organization. Maybe some listeners out here aren't familiar with everything that we do, everything that Gaston Together does. So where can listeners go to learn more information? Is there social media, just anything and everything that you can share, please?
Yes, gastontogether.org. We have done a new website in
That's
the
very
last
good.
year and a half. Thank you. And it really has a lot of very easy to navigate information about what we're doing. We also have our events on the first page. There's ways to reach out to us and connect, but you're certainly welcome to email me. Easiest email in Gaston County, LLEE@gastontogether.org. We also have amped up our social media quite a bit. We're both on Facebook and Instagram, and we're using that to press out some information and share some happiness on there,
sure.
too. We've been sharing some different things about our Togetherness Project, just days to celebrate. National Book Day, National We Like Our Sister Day, all kinds of things that just sort of lifting people up and also sharing information about what we're doing.
Any events coming up? What's the current greatest need? Are there events that with maybe with volunteers? Just anything, obviously any organization like this, it's always funding. Okay, and we want to make sure that our listeners understand that these organizations don't operate without funding and help. But anything else that you could share?
We are going to be involved in the Overdose Remembrance celebration that's going to be happening August 28th from 11 to 2 at the Pavilion,
Okay.
the Rotary Pavilion. It's a way to take a moment and remember some people that have been lost to something that is a huge issue here, and we are concentrating on different ways that we can address that. But also, I think, pay attention to our website for the different things that we're
Gotcha.
doing. When our CEL application opens back up, those spots fill up very fast. If you're interested in that, again, don't hesitate. Fill out the application. Have a conversation. Give us a call, and we'll talk to you about whether it's the right fit for you at this time, or how we can help you move through that program.
Yeah, even if someone might be listening. If you work for a company who is interested in leadership, and you give opportunities for, team members to be promoted and move up, they might be interested in helping. I mean, to help pay for that. Which what we did here, because we're huge on leadership and huge on promotion from within and huge on community service. So. Maybe don't be afraid to go ask somebody at your company that is this something they would be interested in getting more of their coworkers and team members involved, because it's a great initiative, but it's also needed because this newer we frankly just need younger, and it's not just about young people. I'll be clear about that, but we need a new group of individuals serving on these boards and getting involved in the community. When it's the same old dummy doing things, something's got to change ultimately. I mean, I think one thing I do like about Gaston Together, I believe the board is a good mix of, I don't want to say younger and older, that's not accurate, but people who have been involved with the community for a while and those that haven't. I'll give you a great example. My Rotary Club's exactly the same. We've done a great job of longer-term members and members haven't been in the club very long. I'm a big believer you need that mix of ideas and views of the world, because, my 25, 23, and 18-year-old have a completely different view of the world than I do, right? And most of it's for the better. I mean, I've learned quite a bit from my younger kids about how my view of the world is a little maybe too old school sometimes, So, but my point there is that's just a great point, and I'm sure all that can be found on the website. It's a great website. So, any last words from either of you before we close this episode out?
I just want to thank you for having us on. Thank you for letting us share our story.
You're very welcome.
I think that's what's been important for us, is to get out and be visible and let people know that Gaston Together is here. And we want to serve, and we want to connect,
yes.
Bring people together.
That's a great word.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Connect and collaborate.
Yes, thank you. This really helps people to understand who we are and
Right.
why we exist. Reach out to us. We have many different ways that we can connect with you, whether it's coming out and training your organization, your company on how to use Narcan, or how to be comfortable if there's an emergency that happens, if it's talking more about CEL, or just coming out to share some of the things that we're doing. We're happy to do that. That's what we're here for.
Oh, very good. So, ladies, I appreciate your time, and I appreciate the work you're doing. I mean, I've been fortunate to see it firsthand. And so it is, you guys are making an impact and being intentional about that impact. So I appreciate that, and it makes a difference in our community. So I'm going to finish up like I normally do with my book recommendation and maybe a quote or thought for the week. Like I've mentioned multiple times, I'm a big leadership study person, and I just happened to finish I'm a big John Maxwell fan. He's probably considered the leadership guru currently, but there's a lot of leadership material out there. But his most recent book is called High Road Leadership, and he wrote it specifically to talk about leading in the current world that we live in. This, how can I put it, divisive. It feels divisive. I'm not so sure it is as much as people are trying to tell us. I always encourage people, pay attention to what's happening in your own world and the interactions you're having. Because when I'm dealing with people, frankly, here in Gaston County, most of the time, I don't feel that divisiveness. It's just everybody's trying to tell us elsewhere that, we think differently and we have a different view of the world. I just don't think it's as divided as we people like to tell us. But it's a really good read about leadership in the modern world. And so I would encourage you to check that one out. And my thought for the week is football season's getting ready to start. And so I got a quote from Vince Lombardi. If you don't know who Vince Lombardi is, he's a famous coach for the Green Bay Packers many years ago. But he said, if you will not settle for anything less than your best, you'll be amazed at what you can accomplish in your lives. So I think Leslie said, just do it, right? Especially when you're young, we have this fear of, I don't know, bad things happening, and most of the time those fears are more in our heads than they are in reality. But yeah, just, you know what? It's kind of thing I told our kids, just do your best. Do your best and act like your mother. You'll be fine. And then we'll be good to go. You've never thought that, have you? About your kids? Have you, Mia? I have. Yeah, it's like, oh my God, my son's acting just like I was when I was 16. Oh, it's awful. Okay, so moving on. So to our listeners out there, thanks so much for taking time to listen to today's episode. Please spread the word if you can about the podcast. And please don't hesitate to contact us here at our email address, which is podcast@gastonsgreat.com. We're always looking for suggestions for future podcast topics and guests. You can find the podcast and subscribe at the website, gastonsgreat.com, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. And please follow us on all our social media platforms. Thanks again to Leslie and Amia for being our guests today. Gaston's Great is produced and brought to you by who? Naomi Hunt and Amy Anderson from GSM Services. Boy, I'm struggling today. I'm your host, Stephen Long. Thanks again for hanging out with us, and please keep coming back to hear more reasons why Gaston's great.